And welcome to our November 11th board meeting for APA. This evening, I hope everyone's doing well. I know it was pretty frigid cold yesterday in Indianapolis, and it looks like the warm weather hopefully warms up later this week as well too. First thing also I'd like to say is Veterans Day, so thank you to all the veterans who have served our country. We appreciate that service, and I hope you'll be able to enjoy that with any others if you do have anyone in your family as well. First thing on the agenda here, so you can go ahead and call the meeting to order here at 6:03 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. First thing on the agenda, we'll call the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence.
Don't wait on me.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, first thing on the agenda here, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as presented this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not,
I would say
yeah, all in,
I got
I'm
one.
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. So on the printed agenda, it doesn't, Brian, are you looking at your boardable agenda?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so on that, I have, after public comment, Tom Bannon is here to do a presentation, but it looks on my printed agenda that it's not on there, so just in case of a discrepancy, but Tom's here.
Okay, we'll go that after public comment, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about the
All
comments.
right. Any other further discussion? All right, with that amendment, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carried. Next thing, the public comments. Do we have anyone signed up for any public comments this evening?
No, sir.
All right, thank you. All right. Next thing on the agenda here is our presentation. Jill, I'll turn the floor over to you, and we can go ahead and introduce Tom as well too. And does we need anything set up, visuals, audios, or anything for that?
Nope,
All right.
we're good in person.
All right.
So, allow me to introduce or reintroduce Tom Bannon from Community Health. He is here to present us some nice things as part of the Community Chefs event that we participated in about a month ago.
Third Saturday in September.
Third Saturday in September. Large attendance there. We may have come home with the best decorated table award.
Yay.
So excited about that. I know George was there as part of the there, got to sample food. So we had a table. Good time. Always appreciate it. So
Thanks.
here's Tom.
Well, as Jill said, and of course my friend and colleague Michelle as well, so I want to acknowledge Michelle. And as was mentioned too, especially here at APA, you know, acknowledge Veterans Day, and so glad to be here on this day. So as Jill mentioned, Community Chefs, this was, you know, we kind of lose track on how many live ones we've had because we've missed a couple during COVID, and this is probably our 11th live one. And it's always the third Saturday in September, and it's a group of 40 to 50 men that prepare a dish ahead of time, and then serve. They're to prepare 13 full-size portions, and then they serve quarter-size portions. So they have 144 little portions. 50% of what's raised goes to the school systems in Madison County, public or private, as long as it has a high school as part of the system. 25% always goes to our oncology services to help with the needs of our oncology patients. And then 25% we rotate with different things. This year was our AED program. You know, we have a lot of AEDs, the automatic, you know, electronic defibrillators out in the community, and so this will help replace those and put more of those in the community. It is my pleasure to go around and present the checks to at the school board meeting. So I always call this school board tour. I will attend 9 school board meetings in the last 3 weeks here. So I've got 2 more after this. And last year wasn't able to come because it just missed, and the next one was in February. So hopefully next year we'll be able to be here with you again in person. So we raised $112,000 this year that night. APA is a great partner with it. Had 2 chefs, best decorated table. had a table of people there. It's at the Anderson Country Club. We have about 400 people in attendance. We have a silent auction, and so there's a lot that goes into it. And this year I have a check for $2,500 for APA. And in the course of the time now, that puts us over $25,000 that's gone to APA. So
Wow, that's
thank you for
great.
your support. And
Thank you.
A round of applause, I think, is warranted there.
Yeah, we did. So thanks, you guys. If you ever want to know what all the other school board meetings are like, just let me know. I'll get you involved. So, I'll be afraid
We
to
were
lapel
going
if
to
you wanna
ask
see
which
me.
was your favorite, but we best
This one, of
not.
course.
since
I mean,
we're
we know,
there.
because you're here.
Yeah, Franklin Lapel Thursday if you want to follow me on the tour.
All
You
right.
should start like live tweeting from them or whatever.
I've always joked I should bring a merch stand with me, t-shirts.
Yes.
All the dates on the back, all the locations. So, thanks, you guys.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
very
Thank
much.
Got some money, guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that, and great job, and congratulations, everyone. Next on the agenda is approval of our meeting minutes that were issued here for September and October of this year. You guys can look over those for a few minutes here, and then we will put those for motion to approve.
If any corrections are needed, should we present those now, or do we need to wait?
We can go ahead and do those during discussion,
Okay.
and then and make the amendments in for that.
All right.
Yeah. All right, first thing we'll discuss here, September 2025 meeting minutes. Can I get a motion to approve those as presented?
Make a motion to approve the September minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on September?
Okay, in the roll call between Ryan Johnson and George, I believe it was George and Michelle were absent. We need a period rather than a comma. And that was all that I saw.
Oh, okay.
Sorry to get so picky there, but
Looks like we might have a typo on Ball State too.
Where? And a typo in Michelle.
Oh,
I got that extra.
I'm sorry, that's the way my sister's name is. Just get used to it.
Can't you just change it?
I blame my mother.
Okay.
Oh, you know, I'm sorry.
Those are the
My
October
apologies.
ones.
That is October. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself.
All right, we have that one correction. Any other corrections for September? If not, all in favor say aye with the adjustment.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries, thank you. October, can I get a motion to approve October 2025's meeting minutes as presented?
I'll move to approve the October 2025 minutes as presented.
Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on October?
This is where the Ball State correction was at. That was a month off.
Oh.
All right.
I'm sorry, was there any correction for October?
Ball State.
Ball State. Okay.
Wasn't Keith present during that time frame too?
Keith Chandler, yes, was present at the October meeting.
It's got that.
Hmm?
It does.
Uh,
It says Adam and Keith with Ball State.
Oh, yeah, yes,
At the
it
top.
does, yeah.
Okay, got it, got it.
All right. Any other further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries for that, for October meeting minutes. All right, thank you for those. Next thing on the agenda is approval of the CEO report as presented this evening. We'll take a few minutes to review that. If not, can I get a motion to approve the CEO report as presented this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the November 11th CEO report.
Thank you. And a second? Is there a second?
I'll second. Michelle
Thank you.
seconded.
Oh, I'm sorry, my apology, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
There was a comment on healthcare premiums. Of course, we are in, let's say, the broader marketplace. Is there anything specific in the works, or everything is sort of up in the air and uncertain as we know? We've done very well, I think, in keeping our healthcare costs down.
Yeah, so we are getting ready because we're at the marketplace. Open enrollment season is happening. Anybody that's on marketplace knows that they're getting spammed with a million different resources, and the major carriers that offer the Indiana marketplace, they went at the end of September to the regulatory bodies, and they were trying to get permission to raise their premiums between 22 and 27%. And so our brokers have been working on that. I do not know where they have landed on that. Obviously, regulatory bodies with the federal government shut down as well, and then some of our state changes, not sure on all of that. And so right now our brokers are going through and they're showing me what contributions and what the rates will actually be, but I will not have that information until next week. And so then we will have to go through and adjust our contributions and look at how the employee plans are affected by it. So I don't have any definitive numbers at all, because as everything is right now, everything is really up in the air. Do not know how the federal government, obviously, those of you that are following that, you know that one of the big bargaining chips right now is the Affordable Care Act and that regulatory guidance there, as well as subsidies and things like that. So no clue where that will land, just as that federal part. We did talk about, do we want to look at going back to having one carrier, and you know, we do that part, but right now that market is not friendly at all, especially with our group health diversity and some of the things that we have faced just as a collective health-wise in the last 2 years, which is, you know, within the last 3 years is when they want to do it over 100% increase on that, like through Anthem. So right now I don't have any answers. Obviously, we're going to do whatever we can to keep our numbers down for the employees, as well as, within what we can afford through as a school. So it's an interesting time to be going through renewal and having the government in limbo. So we'll figure it out, and I'll be able to provide more information about that.
Yeah. And then also in that same paragraph, you mentioned, of course, the uncertainty of the government budgets, the federal grants. I may have asked this question in a different format before, but on our budget, we, of course, adjusted our federal programs, which are now pretty much just the titles and federal special ed, adjusted those down a significant amount. Was that the result of actual cutbacks, or was it just us being conservative? Because normally we try to, we don't want to be too optimistic when we're projecting. We'd rather err on the side of being too cautious as not cautious enough.
Yeah, I'll go with all of the above again on that one.
Okay.
I like this. This is one of those, I feel like I could be a politician right now.
Yeah,
Look at me
yeah.
evading answers. So with our federal programming, we have not, it's significant cut in our world, but not a significant cut in the grander scheme. So we had a slight reduction in our Title I allocation, our planning allocation. We did have another reduction within Title II that I would say that was significant, because that
Yeah,
ended
that
up
was
being
the
about
heaviest.
15,000 or so. We did qualify for Title III for the first time, so that brings another 10 in. We're still at kind of a loss as far as having reductions. But it's not that big. We also have to remember that we don't have a lot of carryover anymore, like we have previously, because when we had all of the ESSER money, right, we spent that as fast as we could and saved our title funding, and so we were carrying over more of that. This year for Title I, spent every last penny by September 15th, and 2 years ago, we were having to make sure we met that 85% spending threshold by September 30th, which that is our normal, to spend all of our title money within a normal fiscal year. And so that's kind of where we're getting back to it. But we were conservative during that budget process because we just didn't know. And
Right.
they had taken, I think, $4.5 billion out of what funded Title II, Title III, and Title IV. And I knew, like, that whole allocation that they put forward in the last federal budget for that entire category was $2 billion. Well, the previous year, Title II alone had been $2.1 billion. So that 4.5 had to come from somewhere. And so we were looking at that. One of the things that I was trying to figure out was what percentage of a cut would that be. When you're playing with the government's billions of dollars, it really is like monopoly money. But it seemed like we should look at possibly a 30% reduction in those smaller programs. And that seemed to do okay for us as far as the budget goes. As the federal government reevaluates how federal funding works and block grants versus having a Department of Ed and that oversight, we shall see what comes out of that. Really, the one for us to be watching right now is truly the state, and how they are going to hint at how, if we had a block grant, here's what we would invest our money in. What we typically see as Title IV, the federal government, that would more so be your student well-being grant, wanting kids to have a well-rounded education. That also does include social and emotional learning, mental health support services, things of that nature. But we know at a state level, a lot of the words that I just said are not words I'm supposed to be saying as an educator in the state of Indiana. And so it will be interesting to see where they want to put that federal grant block money, or where they would propose to put it. That's been a lot of the charter watch right now, is watching what statements certain senators are saying and trying to interpret which part of our funding they would be talking about. So it's going to be a really interesting session, and they are actually going to be, they plan on going back in December. I know that they had called a special session to discuss redistricting, possibly that, but now they've thrown that into real session. And the legislators truly plan to be done with this short session before the end of February, which typically we're going to go at least till the end of March when we're on a short session. So they are trying to streamline things. A lot of their focus this session is going to be deregulation, especially within the education realm. I went to the legislative preview within the last 2 weeks, if anybody kind of figured that part out. And so that's going to be very interesting. But as part, we did rejoin the new charter association. It's called ICIC, and they are very well versed in things going on. And at that conference that I went to, they had the actual Department of Ed there. They had Katie Jenner there. People that typically wouldn't be coming to a charter conference were there, and we got to hear from the horse's mouth about a lot of things. So it'll be a fun next couple months, guys.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
Congratulations on the Gaither Foundation money.
Yes,
That's
very good.
wonderful.
Thanks.
Do we have initial plans with that? I see what you had written for, maybe a sound booth or updating the stage. Has
Yeah.
anything been worked out just yet for it? It may still be early.
No, it's really early. That was literally a check just came in the mail. And I had run into Gina Briscoe at Community Chef's event, and she said, "Oh, hey, I've got a check for you." I'm like, "Oh, I hadn't heard back. And he was like, "Oh yeah, there'll be we've got some ideas and, how we want to send it and, help you with this or that. I'll touch base with you." Well, that was in September. And then we got back from fall break and there was just a check in the mail. I'm like, so I sent her, "Thank you."
Yeah.
Thank you. That's a really pretty check. Thank you. Thank you. And so we're going to get together and basically, for those of our public that are listening, one of the things that the state did with the new graduation requirements was remove fine arts from any requirement. And while the powers that be sometimes have very good intentions, we know as a school how important the arts are, right? How impactful that is on our students. But one of the challenges with the new grad pathways and the new grad requirements and the new seals and all of the things is, if you are truly an art student who wants to take 8 semesters of art, or a band kiddo that wants to take 8 semesters of that, or a choir, you might not be able to pull it off and still meet all the things you need to with work-based learning and internships and externships. And so talking to Cassie Carmer, who is our school counselor, with the flexibility that has been built into those grad requirements and kind of the shift on what seat time is and that whatnot, we can integrate entrepreneurship, music business education, intro to biz within those music classes. We can put entrepreneurship and marketing or branding within a art class, a typical art class they would be taking, as long as these standards are met, right? And we can go to the State Board of Education and ask them to create a locally created pathway to hit pathway 3 that is an arts pathway. So performing and visual arts, our kiddos can meet their box 3, meet all of their requirements, stay in the content that they love, and they could build a career out of it or get their voice, or it's their escape. I mean, I could soapbox for a very long time about that. And get them to graduate without a waiver and, move them on in life. We have already gone before the state board previously to get Civil Air Patrol as part of a military science locally created pathway. So we have students that if they can't pass the SAT requirement, can't pass the ACT portion, or they're struggling with that, if they take all these military science classes, which obviously they're required to here, they demonstrate leadership through X, Y, Z, and then they are going to be enlisting or going that part way. Instead of them having a waiver, because now the state is docking your grad rate for waivers that you might have to issue, they can use that pathway, which is already built into our requirements, to graduate as well. So going before the State Board of Ed is not as difficult as one would think, and they want us to get creative. But basically, to get started, it was, well, if we had a studio, right, or we could do music production, what could that be like? And then that obviously lends itself to podcasting and some of those new arenas that exist, and we can, $30,000 is a great start to develop that. And I would say APA is kind of the experts at making every penny turn into about $1,000 with creativity. And then I know we've got community partners that want to help us with that already too. So, but yeah, so the Gaithers, that was fantastic, and good news for us, and really helping us stay committed to our kids getting to have that voice and choice, and our kids not having to sacrifice their passions to go get ready for the workforce, because it could turn into a career.
Yep. No, yeah, that's amazing. That's wonderful.
Yeah. So very excited about that.
Do you feel that, along with the state's guidelines for graduation becoming more work training oriented, do you feel that we are on the, I don't know if you could say cutting edge, but that we are aware of many of the articles that we're reading now from the financial news about the effects of AI? And it sounds like a lot of the, let's say, jobs, especially the entry-level jobs that require college education, may be almost eliminated. So I don't know, with, of course, when we began as a school and as a board, it was college prep, Core 40 was the emphasis. But I think the future for our young people may be different than what we could have imagined back then. So
Yeah, and statistically, I think that it's either 70 or 80. So 70 or 80% of the jobs that our kids are going to have don't currently exist. And so it is hard for us to even like spitball, like, it's spaghetti theory, right? We're throwing stuff at the wall. We don't know what's going to stick, because with AI especially, everything changes every second, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even a microsecond. And so for us, having the high demanding academic standards, right? We want to make sure that our kids are ready for whatever gets thrown at them. So college ready as best as we can, knowing that not all of them are going to go to college, right? And I know we've talked about, 2 years ago, we had a kiddo walk across the stage making like 80 grand already, right? And so we don't know what that looks like, but we do know, especially the skills that we develop in those higher level classes, the thinking, the problem solving, the discernment, right? And I know you guys have heard me say that I get in a fight with my chat GPT because sometimes it's wrong, right? It didn't think that President Trump was our president. I was like, no, this did happen. I'm not imagining it. This is not a Mandela effect, right? And so what we have to do as educators, and this is, I think, one of the most authentic part of learning and part of being a teacher, is knowing we're not the smartest people in the room and we don't have the answers. We have ideas, but we're in a very interesting time of how do we help those ideas take shape. I would be remiss if I didn't say take flight. So Brielle will make sure I check the branding, guys. And how can our kids be truly prepared for that, right? Because the dependency on AI, even, you know, the adult dependency on it, right? AI is not always right. AI doesn't know what you're feeling or needing to say in that moment. And like I said, it's going to change, right? It's the same thing where people are like, we need to block AI. How do you block a program that knows how to unblock itself?
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's that.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing, you know, when Google came out and Chrome came out, I was going back through one of our students' discipline file, and I think this was a 2011, 2012 write-up where they had downloaded the Chrome browser, heaven forbid, because they were trying to circumvent all of our security features. That time, Internet Explorer was the place to go. It's the safest. Explorer doesn't even exist right now as a browser, right? And to think back, God love Mr. Thompson, but to think back that write-up was 2011-12, where Chrome's a way to circumvent and now our kids have Chromebooks, and we're like, hey, everybody get on your Google Classroom real quick so that we can do that, right? And so knowing that as a school and knowing that we don't have all the answers, but we're going to work together to figure it out, talk to the local you know, colleges, talk to the local trade schools, the careers, right? I know Anderson is still bringing in new factories and, you know, new employers, especially at an international level. How do we partner with that? How do we let kids get messy and learn and figure out those important things so that whatever careers, you know, come out of wherever we're going, they're at least prepared to navigate it. So that's kind of where we're at on that. Very speaky today. But that, I think that, you know, knowing one thing that won't go away, to go back that way, the arts are not going away, right? As a society, our arts just grow, especially performance art. If you're looking at TikToks and Reels and all of those things, graphic design, AI is actually helping people be able to get the visualization out of their head and into artwork and things. So at least knowing that pathway would be a good investment for us and something that we know will still exist. So we'll figure out what the other ones are too.
Well, you know, if you want to be a welder, an electrician, let's face it, I mean, no knowledge is wasted. Won't hurt you to have a calculus course, even if, like I said, you want to not ever use it again. So there's, I guess, different ways of looking at that. But what you said makes sense to me.
Yeah, and I will say,
The better prepared you are, the better your chances, regardless of how it turns out.
yeah, and the critical thinking and discernment one, that's the biggest part, right? And then obviously the other element of APA that you can't measure. Ball State got to witness that today. We had an amazing Veterans Day program, so shout out to our Civil Air Patrol, all of our cadet leadership, our band. The program that they put on today is something you can't measure, right? That empowered part, you can't. How do you measure the discipline and culture of respect that we have as a school, that we can sit in a mass assembly like that, which does go a little bit longer, right? And have, you know, 400 or 500 kids, and I could be sitting up front by the podium and I can give a look across the gym at some kids and they're going to be quiet, right? They're going to try to show that respect. They're still kids, they're squirrely, it's hard to sit still that long. But that's, how do you do that? And so that's part of the other part of what APA does, right? That those skills are going to prepare the kids for a really cool future. So.
Now, I think they have tomorrow evening, I believe, a meeting with parents, community members who will tell, you know, their side of what APA has done for them. So that should be an interesting meeting.
Yeah, and I got to meet one of our grandparents today. He actually saved our Veterans Day ceremony 3 weeks ago, and he didn't know he did. Oh, well, he knows now, but our speaker fell through. And I was like, oh, what are we going to do? I had a website contact from one of our grandparents who was like, hey, I'm part of DAV, I'm part of this, and I actually know the real life Forrest Gump. I'm like, does he like to be called Forrest Gump? Like that, who is one of the, he's the only Medal of Honor member that is in Indiana still. And he said, I can help connect you with some speakers. And I was like, our guy just fell there. I'm like, wait a minute. How about this guy? His kiddo, or his grandson, came to APA 2 years ago, and it wasn't a great thing that he was coming from. And the transition that has happened with this young man and what it has done for his grandfather, who is one of our veterans, I can't even describe it. And I met him for the first time today, face to face, and just started telling me all he said. I was like, hey, this is really awkward, but Ball State's literally like 10 feet over there. Do you want to talk to them real quick? Because we're having a community meeting tomorrow. And so, got to connect with them, and they got to hear that part too. And so I'm looking forward to the meeting tomorrow. I'm not sure how many people will show. We did invite, I think we over-invited.
So was it not publicly announced then?
It was.
Meeting?
Yeah, so we sent it out on Parent Square, and it's on our socials. And then we invited some of our community partners, so like Community Hospital, Energy Impact, a lot of them.
Mhm.
But,
Totally missed them.
oh, man, you've been a little busy.
That's
maybe.
okay,
Yeah, and they said sometimes they have 4 people show up to them. Sometimes they've had like maybe 30 families show up. They're
We have a
like,
good crowd.
how many did you guys invite? We're like, all of them. So this is a new part for them, new part for us, and we don't know who's
Be
going
in
to
the
come.
gym here.
Yeah,
What time?
4:30. So, and then that was something that I was telling our community partners, if they couldn't make it but they wanted to send a letter in, we'll just give that to Ball State, because not everybody wants to speak publicly, right? And Ball State does have some comment cards they'll give out to people that may not want to speak. We are going to have childcare there for the families in case that's a challenge or barrier, and then we also are going to have a translator there as well. So,
Nice.
so there you go.
Well, most of our board members are parents of students, so I guess.
That is true. That is.
Yeah.
Hey guys, how you
Everybody's
feeling?
welcome to come, I guess, so.
Please don't say mean things or tell me later. But yeah, so there's my long rambling CEO. So.
No, very
Any
good
other
discussion.
questions about my report?
Thank you for that. All right, any other further discussion?
I just had another question. It looks like our number has went down again since the count.
It has, but if you look at my next page,
I was just say our
Oh, it didn't.
online went
oh
up.
no.
Say, I didn't see any.
Hang on, guys. I was
Oh.
so proud of myself because like I did last meeting, I went through the withdrawals between last meeting and this meeting and wrote the reasons down for why they left. I've been having some computer challenges. Those of you that weren't here earlier, we've been having some internet challenges today as well. It seems that the computers have grown a mind of their own. But going through this, we had 4 of those withdrawals were DCS cases that they were placed in different homes. And so they obviously couldn't go to APA anymore. We had 2 that they wanted to be in person and needed transportation, so that was a change. We had 6 that were part of one family, and that was all transportation. Was not great, but especially what people have been facing with the
Shutdown.
with the shutdown, with SNAP benefits and those things. I mean, obviously it's something understandable. And then we had 1 who was only here for 3 weeks, so I don't know that they really got a chance to experience this. And then there was 1 that moved to Union, so that's a little too far for us. And that was about it. So that was, I'm so mad. My other computer has my other CEO report version, and I had a spreadsheet for you, and I even showed you what year that they had enrolled with us and explained our student IDs. So it's fine. Well,
I was just curious.
I felt like I had my life together.
Well, luckily, the ADM count wasn't now.
Yeah. And we've had new enrollments and continue to get them. it's kind of,
Yeah.
it's fluctuating. It's not fluctuating as drastically as it has. I'm waiting to see what official counts come out as, but I think Madison County as a whole enrollment-wise have seen decreases.
Yeah.
Enough
Yeah.
that people are reaching out to me like, hey, how,
Mhm.
it's like someone, what'd you get for answer number 2?
Mhm.
But we're flexible. We'll continue to navigate it.
Any other further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you for that report, the CEO report there. Next thing on the agenda is the finance report,
Okay.
the board treasurer, and the September monthly financials.
All right, very
Over to
good.
you, Dave. Yep.
Everyone has a copy of my one-page notes here, and of course, we sent out the pre-meeting analysis as well a few days ago. Let's see, here in the middle, I have it arranged so it's they're sort of like bullet points, let's say. So I'm just going to make my way through the verbiage there, and then some of the corresponding numbers are in our standard summary table there at the top. So I guess where to start would be, we did have a strong start here in July. Some of the things that got us off to a very strong start, we had talking about just having a check handed to you. Well, in May we had the employee retention credit plus interest, $282,000 some dollars, which enabled us to begin July 1st with a very strong beginning cash balance of about $641,000. And it may just be my target, but I like the number of the 5-year pre-COVID average of around $730,000 would be a nice end of the year balance for us to strive for. And then, of course, our July, we got the first installment of our innovation grant, and that was a very healthy $580,210. And at our last board meeting, of course, we talked about 5 loans maturing, beginning at the very beginning of our next fiscal year, which would be in, I think, June, July, and August, let's say, of 26. So that should free up some money that is currently going to debt service. Not sure how much yet. And then, of course, we just signed a new computer loan for $234,000 in September, and I believe that hits our debt service here in the October figures, and LOC line of credit, which we've never used before. It was at 75. We've upped that to 500,000. And if I'm correct, I believe that can be used however we want to draw upon it, although I think our primary purpose was for our pre-K program, because like every other loan with the exception of our innovation grant, we do have to spend our money first and then seek reimbursement. But again, that gives us a very healthy cushion. And we were talking about health insurance, and our marketplace health coverage has certainly lowered our expenses compared to what they would have been if we stayed with traditional carriers. I'm sure they would have been over $500,000. So good start. Now the next bullet point, let's say, or paragraph there, we at our last meeting we were informed, of course, that our first ADM count, which we were hoping would be about 755, 760, that's what our budget was based on, came in at 741. So 19 students, and we started the year off, July through October, with a very healthy, I'm going to round the numbers up here, all of the exact figures are in my reports for you. 591,000, and we'll get that in October. That was based on an initial budget from way last year in the 840, and the budget was 760, and first ADM count was 741. So based on Bookkeeping Plus's figures here, the give back months will be in November and December, and you can see the dip it takes down to 440. And then there will be a constant 541,000 January through June. We have a second crack at it, our early February, the second ADM count. If we can increase from the 741, then that might give us a little bit of a savings for April, May, and June. Every little bit does help. Let's see. Also, well, let's see. The total support loss then, that was the figure that we did not have at our last board meeting. I think I guessed maybe 200, but it was 236,222. And if I am correct, I noticed that our innovation grant was down 26,600. I'm assuming Bookkeeping Plus that that was related to the lower ADM count.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah, it's directly correlated.
Very good. And I was afraid it might be more than that actually. So.
Well, it's $1,400 per student. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
19.
Okay. And then, well, see, if you add the two together, then the loss of 19 students will total $263,000. So that is always a difficult challenge in the short term to work around, but we've been there before, and we will handle it. Okay, going on to my next bullet point then. Let's see here. Total. Well, let me go back up before I go down any further. Let me go back up to our basic, our key metric numbers here at the very top. When we were together here at our last board meeting, we were looking at a projected year-end terms of our cash net income of 53,710 cash loss. Remember, the budget that we approved was break even. And in my little summary chart up there, you notice I have the cash budget, which we approved, and the variance from where we think we will be. And then also I have the pre-audit numbers for our last fiscal year, so you can compare and see, you know, if we did this last year, how do we stand with our latest projections? Now, you'll notice then that our latest projections as of September 30th, you'll see that the basic amount went down, the 236 some thousand we just talked about. And the grant income, though, was only down about 42,000, so that has held steady, even though the federal grants, and I think that's a bullet point that we'll be hitting here in just a minute, but of course the federal grants, the average there is a drop from last year of about 19%. And then some individual grants were even higher than that. And the state grants are down, let's see, I don't have that number, but anyhow, we'll get to that as we move down my bullet points there. But the way that our numbers look then for year end, we are now looking at, we think, a net income loss of $419,000, which is disappointing for sure, because what that means is that if that is what we achieve, it's going to reduce our ending cash balance from last meeting we were projecting 587,000. Now we're down to 222,000, and that is a very low number. So we have, again, we will deal with it. We had high hopes that we were going to start to slowly build up our ending cash balance, which we will do, but it's going to be a little harder. We got a lower starting point than we wanted. But again, we have been there before, and I don't know if we've made an official decision on an amended budget yet. There's no rule that I'm aware of as to when that's called for. Bookkeeping Plus, do you have any, do you feel that we do need to amend after we get done with Ball State? And
I mean, if they don't require it, which I don't think it went down enough that we have to. Have you heard anything, Jill?
Well, they don't have their finance person right now. But
Oh.
I did put in my CEO report that once we're done with the review, and the audit, that I'd like to look at amending the budget, just so that we know what we're working with, right? We have already made some changes into some operations, and that way, you know, we're getting kind of an authentic picture of what it is, and we know kind of that we truly are living within our means, with the insurance being kind of in that uncertainty part. I do know that we'll be seeing probably an increase in our CTE funding. Had figured out that our community partner hadn't been reporting maybe necessarily the way they needed to for us, and so we should see an increase in that funding this year. But that's not gonna, you know, jump in and save the day. So I just want to make sure that we are, you know, we go through it with fine-tooth comb and everybody's on the same page.
CTE, that's a vocational grant. Yeah,
Yes.
that's around 50, I think, and something like that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it should be about 95.
Oh, well, that would be a big pop, which would help immensely, yeah.
Right.
So,
So, but yeah,
Okay.
learned some new things. Got to play with inters, get a little bit into that DWD part.
Nice.
So
well, there's no hard, fast rule, to my knowledge, on when that's called for. We have had to do that. It was very rare, but the last couple of years we have had to do that several times, although in fairness, one time was because our enrollment was much higher than what we thought, so it can go either way for us.
So if it goes, my thought is if it goes up dramatically, I mean, I think it's a good idea since it did go down and our cash flow's tight. Like Jill said, I think it's a good idea, but typically they require it if it's, you know, like dramatically different, like, you know, because we've had 50 students difference, and those, I think, are
Or
justified
more,
doing.
actually, one year,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. Well, let's see, let me go back to my, I guess you could call these bullet points here, be the third one. These are just things that stuck out or jumped out at me as I was going through the results here over the weekend. Total expense, if you look at our budget, it shows that we're $453,000 over budget, but only 0.8% higher than we were last year. I'm thinking, and again, Bookkeeping Plus can correct me if I'm interpreting this wrong, but on the budget, our under IT, hardware purchase showed $20,004 with the label that this was net of the loan proceeds, and then we had included in the budget the loan. The loan was already in our debt service. Is that correct? I'm thinking.
The loan payments
The
were
loan
already
payments,
in it.
yeah.
So the problem is, because I read what you'd written on the long narrative that you sent out to us, is the 236 or whatever the amount is, 236,000 is in the income, and then the expense is 236,000, and that's the problem is we didn't anticipate. Again, it's one of those things we had to pay for. It nets itself out, but it looks skewed.
Yeah,
And
it skews the variance,
If it makes
yeah.
it easier, we can move that income down and just net it against that line. And then it shows your income to be a little more realistic as well, because it's only showing that your income is down like 15 or whatever it is, 20,000 for the year. Well, again, it's really more than that because of the decrease in students.
Right.
As far as that. So it's sort of like the same with the cash flow that we had pointed out a few times, that the ADM that was reported on the 54 report was a lot higher, which was causing our cash to be higher. And we knew when the account actually came in that it would be adjusted, and that's why November and December, and then moving forward, then got adjusted accordingly. So that's the other reason that the cash was now looking lower, because we now have that 54 report and the true up numbering. So that's a big reason. It wasn't that we were so much more, but we did receive, like you said, the innovation grant. Well, that is more. I mean, that is obviously more, but then that's typical. We always get it then, and then we'll get the other one, in a few months. But I mean, that's the problem. So
Yeah.
that's sort of just some of those things. So we can definitely do the offset of the computer income against that expense, so it sort of nets
Now,
itself, so to speak.
Do I think I may be hearing that the cash net income, the loss is not really going to be 419,000? That's not what we're saying, is it?
No, that's still showing what it
That's
is.
gonna, yeah, it'll
Now,
be what it is.
again, I'm jumping ahead just a tad, but one of your other comments was the confusion on the CSP, sorry, I was wrong.
Oh, yeah, on the pre-K,
CSP.
yeah.
Well, the problem is we have to, when the budget came out, we had to show those as negative because they're in the budget, because we're paying those full salaries and everything, but it's related to that grant. And then we're offsetting when we receive money and paying out those expenses. Well, Jill's put an amendment in, which she's mentioned last meeting, and we're waiting to get the difference back. We can't ask for a reimbursement, so we can't put that money in the cash flow until we know that it's been approved. Then we can ask for that money. So we have more money to ask for that's in this budget, which will then increase our cash. But because I don't know I can't put something in there that we don't know.
Right.
And we're just waiting to hear back on them. So that will help, and that will decrease the net loss. So, and I get that it's a little confusing, but that's the problem, is because of that.
Right.
We have to show it that way. So I wanted to point that out when we had this meeting, because that was critical, in my opinion, to know that I do think it's gonna be better. A lot better by far. I mean, I don't know that it's not gonna be, 400,000 better, but I do think it's quite a bit better. So you will see that when that amendment gets approved, and then we can now ask for that reimbursement for those back expenses.
Okay, but is that going to help our K through 12 figures if it's, of course, that grant's for
because it'll help your
pre-K?
cash flow, yes.
Yeah,
It'll
Okay.
help your cash flow, because you're gonna get more money in.
All right,
basically
Because right
looking at
now, they're
pre-K.
full salaries that are being used partly salaries, expenses, all of it, that are being used for that grant for the preschool, but we can't, and they're all in there, but because the amendment is pending, and we don't know what that's gonna be, I can't put that in there because it's not been asked for yet. So I can't say
Sure.
that that's gonna be in our cash flow until we ask for it.
well, the
I
money
would-
coming in basically will repay what we have to take out of our line of
Right.
credit, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yep.
would
Yeah,
say
that's
basically.
correct.
That's right, okay.
Look at the launch pad as borrowing money from APA, and then
Yes.
we're floating them, they'll get us back later, even
Yes.
though they are us.
Well, I will say, I think Bookkeeping Plus, I noticed some subtle changes, but you guys have done a very good job of when you see what, maybe it's just me stumbling, or probably me stumbling over most of it, but where it's a little difficult maybe for us to understand, I noticed you have changed a few things which do make it a little bit better clarification. If you want to state it any differently, certainly that's good. I think as long as we understand it, and I think that's why I send this out, and then if you can see that we're obviously not getting the hang of something, we can clarify it, so.
Well, and that's why, because
Yeah.
we always read what you send out, so we just wanted to make sure that that was clarified. So, because it is confusing, and I get that, but that's part of, unfortunately, grant management. of how
Well,
we
it
have
is
to
a
do-
challenge to keep track of this within that one framework,
Yeah,
for sure.
right.
I'm glad I'm
Yeah.
not having to do that report. So, okay, let me wrap that up here then. Other metrics that we do keep an eye on. Sub-expense is still a little bit under, well, just a little bit over budget. I don't know, last 2 years it's been like 132, 133,000. I don't know if we can hold that at under 100,000. We'll see on that. Net health insurance, 415,000. That's 17% higher than last year. And then we've heard the possible increase here coming up soon. But that is lower than our pre-marketplace a couple years back at 477. And if we'd stayed with private carrier, you know that would probably be hitting 600,000. So we benefited. And it looks like maybe our debt service coverage ratio might be below the required 125. It's hard to tell this early, but when you start having negative bottom lines, whether cash or accrual, that doesn't bode too well.
Well, and again, when we have that reimbursement that we can ask for, that'll bring it up.
That'll help.
So those
Okay.
are things that'll bring it up, and that's why I just wanted to point that out.
Well, I'm
as
glad to
well.
hear that, yeah, because first glance, it's like, oh man, what, we
Yeah,
were doing
I mean,
so
unfortunately,
good.
there's just several variables we're waiting on, and that's
Mhm.
just, that's just the way it is.
Very good.
It's, we make changes and we have to wait for the approvals.
Okay, then September, you can see the numbers there, nothing extraordinary. It was forecast at a little bit above break even, about $9,800. Or no, it was budgeted for 51,000, came in at 9,800 some, and the month on an accrual basis was a sizable loss there. And I compare that to our August. We had a bigger loss in August. July was a very favorable month for us, of course. And looking ahead at our forecast, or let's say budget forecast, October coming in at about a $91,000 loss. And the variances, there's some things that, red herrings I call them. For example, September, our total income was below budget, mostly because of a $63,000 delay in our food service reimbursements. So again, as long as we understand what's causing some of these bad numbers and unfavorable variances, we're okay on that. And then let's see, I think we talked about the others. That's all I have really. If there's anything else we need to talk about or questions, I thought that was the highlights that jumped out at me. So, and
Yeah,
we're
no, I
glad to
think
hear the
everybody-
good news.
Yeah, no, I think that's really it, like you said, on the timing, because a lot of it's just timing, and that's one of the downfalls of cash basis when you look at it, because it's just how it comes in versus the accrual basis. So, but it's so much easier to do projections on cash basis than it is on accrual.
Oh yes, I'd hate to
Because there's
forecast
so
on
many
accrual.
other variables that go into that can create issues.
Yeah.
So that's where we are.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everyone, for that. And thank you for keeping plus, as always, Beth and your team. Appreciate all the work that you do. All right. Can I get a motion to approve the board treasurer report and the monthly financials for September this evening?
I'll make a motion to approve the board treasurer report and the monthly financials.
I'll second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Motion carries.
We were talking about AI a minute ago. I've heard that AI might actually supplant the need for a treasurer's report in the future. So that's
I mean, we could.
that's a hopeful sign
We could
too.
try
There,
that out.
I'm counting on that. So
We could,
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
we could
Thank you,
televise
Beth.
like
Thank you.
AI
And your
Dave
team.
on.
Appreciate it.
yeah, AI Dave.
Fundraiser.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make that 400,000 back. AI Dave off.
All right, next on the agenda, here's new business, APA Spotlight for our APA Online with Captain Morrison.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hooray!
Welcome.
Hi, Zach.
So I have, if you're like me and you don't like the screen, which is kind of an oxymoron since I'm behind the screen all day.
Yeah.
That's why you don't like it.
Hey,
Right.
Pam, hi, guys.
Yeah.
Like, no,
I
more
did
computers.
print out and then I can.
Okay, and then that's on boardable too. But I'm glad I didn't have to run that off.
Oh,
It's in here too,
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
It's in
pieces.
mine.
Okay.
I'm not passing.
So,
Okay.
Let's come in here and watch you guys in treasure mode.
Isn't it fun, right? So like, I remember that.
handouts. All my handouts are good.
Well,
It's a lost
okay, I guess
art.
that was.
Wonder how the game's going.
Girls game tonight. Is it here? Okay.
The basketball, I didn't know you
And
gave me that part.
then-
He didn't tell you that?
No, they announced it as part of assembly this morning, like, hey, they didn't explain the full story about what it is yet, but they're like, yeah, this, at the alumni game, we're gonna have this.
So is there
and, you know,
anything special
Clara's
that needs
mom
to
did
happen
it.
with this TV besides being turned on?
No, there's a remote down by Michelle,
Oh, right there.
and
Which one? Is it this one?
the black one, I think. And I'm just like, well, I didn't know that Clara's mom made that.
What did you make?
It is a blingerific basketball, and
Basketball.
it's gonna do like really cool. It's gonna be a whole legacy moment, so I'm excited.
Well, while I'm setting up, hi,
Yeah, I
I'm
did
Zach
that.
Morrison, and I am the director of the online program here at APA, which we call APA Online. This is a K through 12 program that is just offered as an alternative to our families. Maybe. I will try to be very brief, trying to hit all the things, and then at the end, I kind of want to go over some changes we've made to our policy and kind of go over some of that with you as well. So starting off, numbers seems to be what everyone wants to know. How many people are there? This is current as of this morning. It is already outdated. It is actually now down to 98 virtual, which then in person would be at 637. Because one did switch in person today, so these are slightly off. But the virtual program does represent about 13.5% of the corporation enrollment. Moving along, broken down by entity, you can see we have 11 in the K through 5 portion, or in the elementary. That represents about 4%, so not a huge amount in the elementary. Moving up to the pre-academy, and this is the one that changed, it is now 21, but around 11% or so of the enrollment for the pre-academy. And then when you get to the high school, you see a much larger number there. We are at 66 as of today that are virtual, which is about 23% of enrollment in the high school. So why APA Online? And this is another question that gets asked a whole lot, and there's not a single answer that is like the only answer. So common reasons: transportation, can't get to and from the building. Whether it is people that have moved far away or they're just having issues getting here. Physical and mental health, anxiety is a huge one. A lot of my students have major anxiety issues. Testing is very scary, and so we try to accommodate that as best we can. We also have unique family dynamics, so teen parents or young ladies becoming mothers in the near future. We also have students that babysit younger siblings and do that during the day. We also have students that use the program for flexible work hours so that they are able to work during typical school hours. We did have one senior who just switched into the virtual program, and when I asked why, it was specifically because he is doing dental tech classes at D26. All of the internships after school are full, but there are internships available during the school hours, so that was his rationale for switching. So, early graduation is another option that some of our students will move to the virtual program, specifically because they're able to take additional courses. Right now we have 3 that have been confirmed. We have 1 who is awaiting confirmation to graduate this year as a junior. And then another reason would be safety. So we do have some families that have chosen the virtual program because they don't feel comfortable sending their students to school, which is very sad, but that's where we are. It's the world we're in. And then the last couple ones I did go ahead and include their negatives. Behavior challenges, so people not necessarily being forced to go virtual, but we can't get along with our peers, so we'll just remove ourselves from that situation. And then there is a perception that it's easier, but I'll talk about why that's not necessarily the case in a second. So over on the other side of the screen, these are questions at the end of the year. I did a poll last year, and these were just some of the responses. In some cases, they don't know why they're virtual, they just are. In other cases, it has to do with being able to have flexibility in their time, family struggling, you see mental, we're gonna assume
Works
that's
at
health. Right. had a lot going on. I needed to be switched, so, and that could be, again, some challenges with other peers or peer groups. And then just some quotes. Again, this is mostly from the end of last year, although a lot of it still applies. What advice would you give to a new student starting online? Don't be afraid to ask questions. Stay on top of your work is a big one. It's not as easy as you might think. It's hard to stay motivated. One that I hear a lot is it's lonely, or that they miss their friends, and that can present some challenges as they try to message with in-person people, and that's, you know, like, no, we can't do that. But we are trying to kind of work on that lonely piece and that social piece a little bit. I'll talk about that more as we go. Tips for success. These are students that they're saying this, you know, have a routine, find your motivation. A lot of them listen to music. For people that get distracted and start falling behind, they try to make space. If I'm gonna have an extra hour on today's schedule, I'm gonna make myself do some more work. I wish they all were like that. They're not. But, you know, we do have several that the program is very good for. So current initiatives is cadet engagement. So engagement is really hard. Attendance had been going so well, and then October hit, and now we're starting to see a massive slide off in attendance, a drop in some of that engagement as well. So really, the policy, when I get to that piece, that's why I am presenting policy changes to you tonight, is to kind of address some of the engagement. At the K through 5 level, Captain Hayden has what he calls the individualizer. This is a Nearpod lesson, which is a program he uses, and it's basically an interactive like schedule, so the kids get a mark off as they're going, and it like gives them little points, and so that's been motivating and has had some success. He's also using micro academies, which has evolved out of his Microfish Academy. Some of you know, if you know, you know. And so those are basically like passion projects where the students are creating their own like content about the whatever interests them. So there is a student who is developing t-shirt designs with the goal of opening a t-shirt shop and actually selling merchandise. So that's kind of been fun at the lower levels. Again, not a tremendous amount of students there, so it's kind of a unique opportunity to kind of work on those pieces. And then for the older kids, we have events and extracurriculars, whether it's school dances, the in-person people are going to, they are also included or welcome to attend. They're invited, a lot don't attend, but we do have some. Also holding contests, working to get PBIS rewards, which is just a reward system. We've had it in the past. It is not currently up and running for the virtual program, so we're hoping to have that up hopefully for next semester, so that we can help build some of that interaction. I've been posting daily polls specifically with high school with the little emojis, and that has gotten some engagement. And the trick has been telling them engagement can also get you extra credit. So extra credit is not really a thing in the virtual program because the credit is the work, like do the work. And so students that engage can earn, I believe it is 0.1% per day of engagement. I've got it all figured out for each day and what, you know, so I think it's 0.1. And then the next big piece, the next initiative would be home safety. And we were sitting in one of our admin team meetings, and Captain McBee was talking about tornado drills or something, and it just hit me that we don't do that in a virtual setting. I wonder what that should look like. I mean, probably we should do something. So started with that, using my good friend ChatGPT to create some work for what does that look like at home, at trying to level it at different levels for students. This week we're working on fire safety, because as it gets colder, winter time is the time where most home fires occur. So specifically looking at the home, what do you do when you're in the house? Where do you go? What's the plan? That kind of thing. And then what happens after a fire? You know, you don't just run back in. So looking at that and then trying to build that out as well as we continue throughout the year. So earthquake drills, probably need to look at doing some kind of home invasion type drill, which is real scary to think about, but
Yeah.
you know, better safe than sorry. And then that takes me to the last piece, which is the policy update. So I have printed that out for you. It is a fairly lengthy document, and I don't expect you all to be like, yes, let me sit here and read it.
I did put it on Boardable, So you should have some access to that.
Okay, great.
Like, I'm trying to
Yeah, great.
fill your stuff.
No, you're perfect. So what are the proposed changes or updates to streamline it? Basically, there are 3 pieces that we're looking at: attendance and daily progress. So right now, we do have an attendance policy, and we do have a minimum progress policy, but there's not really any teeth as far as like, how you've not attended for X amount of days. There's not a way for me to force them back in person or to change the situation. From a legal standpoint, we cannot use attendance anymore as the sole reason for removing someone from the school. But the virtual program is a program, and it's not the whole school. So there is some leeway there. So what the hope would be to have repeat offenders and habitual absences. Sorry, we're gonna have to look at having you return in person. And then the same thing would be true of academic accountability. If we're not making progress, we're not putting in the effort, and it is a continued thing, then at that point it is probably not in the student's best interest to continue in a virtual setting. And then enrollment and ineligibility would be a change. So looking at an application base where they are enrolled at APA first, and then apply to do the online program, which would have a review committee that would either approve or disapprove depending on, student background. For example, we've got a couple students who continuously switch back and forth from virtual to in-person to virtual to in-person, and there's really not any rhyme or reason to it, so this would help mitigate some of that arbitrary switching. It would also give us a chance to coach the student and the parents and let them know that it does require a lot more engagement with your student. It doesn't have to, but most students are not able to be at a mature enough place to hold themselves accountable. And our good friend AI is real tempting.
Yes.
So we do have steps in place to mitigate AI use. I'm not against them using AI. Obviously I'm using AI in places, but as Commandant mentioned earlier, there are issues. Number one is safety. There are, you've probably seen news reports of AI telling kids to do really terrible things. So talking with students about, you need to be aware that this is not the end all be all. It's not a human, it's not a person, it's just a tool. And like any other tool, it's how you use it. So if you're copy pasting, that's right now it's an automatic 0. As that becomes a habitual occurrence, then we'll be addressing that, looking at shifting where they are currently enrolled, I guess. And then basically, I think that pretty much covers it. I do include some specifications that distinguish the difference between our online program, homeschooling, and homebound instruction. Those are 3 separate things. If you're wanting to be in total control of your student's education, homeschooling might be what you're looking for. If you're wanting flexibility but somebody else to be in charge of teaching them, then an online program or a virtual program would be what you're looking for. So I basically wanted to give that brief. I know it was a very brief overview, but then I also wanted to take a moment to present the policy for any of your revisions or notes and or potential approval. Hopefully to be able to put this in place beginning second semester at the latest.
Yeah, and I was like, great job, right, of course. Well, maybe not
Fine.
to me, of course, but
I did a job.
you did a job. Good job. So Calvin Morrison has been working tirelessly since the pandemic started on how to make APA online work best for our students, right? There has been a lot of trial and error. There's been a lot of, oh wow, this is an incredible idea, and there was like, ooh, well, now the kids aren't doing that part. But he's been very tenacious, right, about the attendance, about the engagement. How can we make this better for our kids? Because APA Online cannot be a place for them to hide. It cannot be a place for them to fail, right? It's supposed to be a program that does service a lot of those kiddos that he had on that list, right? Where there's a medical reason for it, there's a familial reason for it, there's transportation, but they have a support network, or they're going to use his team of people for support as well. The attendance part is horrible. across the nation. Attendance is a huge one. You know, everybody's talking about truancy. They're talking about the chronic absentee rates, but nobody has a solution for it. And they're like, hey, educators, figure it out. And so that's something that he has been really good about. Like, how do I engage with you more? Talking to the kids, having like, I think 3 days a week, right? You have those check-in group meetings, and they're a little awkward because they're trying. They don't want to.
I try to joke with them, and they just look at me like
Okay.
I'm speaking tongues.
Yeah, why is this guy talking to me on my
The most
check-in?
awkward 5 minutes are the 5 minutes before the start of a group meet with students who just are like, please don't call him. Don't look at me.
So it's pretty much like being in person,
It's
right?
similar,
There is
yeah.
that where you ask the question, everybody's eyes disappear. But one of the things that he's done, and this was, you know, one of the challenges that when we went through our Bell State review, where we're like, yes, we need to, we're asking these questions. How does it fully match what we try to do in person, right? The leadership development, those other life skills, and that's something that he and his friend AI and all kinds of research have led to with like those safety meeting parts, right? And some skill development. He brought in, he's an Eagle Scout, so brought in some of those experiences in leadership development and those really cool elements, like how can I implement this as part of my schooling for the kids? And so the policies that he's put in place are very much student-centered. We don't ever want a kid to not be eligible for a program like this, right, if they really need it and they're going to succeed. I know, Ryan, obviously your son did very well in it, but we do know that there are kids that this is not the right choice for them. And it's not serving anybody to set them up for failure.
And two things. So, talking about the leadership piece, that is a next semester initiative.
Yeah,
So I'll talk
working
more about
on
that.
it.
But yes, I am working on it.
It's in development.
And yes,
I said always
it would be.
evolving.
So we can't use CAP because it is not our program, right? So we can't use it in a virtual setting. They don't have a virtual option. So looking at what kind of equivalent. So I have gone through some of the old Scouts things and tried to pull out just general life skill type things, you know, simple meals, simple cooking, how do you tie a knot, how do you use a drill, those kind of, you know, simple things. So, and then the second thing I have forgotten, so it wasn't that.
It was amazing.
Oh, I do remember, it was for you, Dave,
Oh.
because you specifically asked or mentioned last board meeting about test scores. I don't have test score information, but I will tell you, I was looking through term 1 data, and it is pretty much, I mean, we're within 1% of performance in person versus virtual. So,
Yeah, and that has been, especially first term this year, we've had a lot more engagement. It's been great because Zach was getting to a point, especially last year, where he was gonna go bald trying to get kids to, he's like, I don't know the solution, like, I don't know either. But because he has stayed on it, because he has been persistent with families and he's continuing to engage with them, they have a really hard time hiding at this point. Some of them are experts and, you know, we won't play hide and seek with them ever. But that has established a culture, right, within that virtual program that is more reflective of our in-person programming as well. And so, you know, obviously kudos on that. And this time of year is not great attendance-wise for us as a school. When we schedule our fall break, we try to be cognizant of at least ACSs because, you know, we all share families, staffs, kids, go both schools. But our whole county for the month of October, at some point, one of the schools is out or my friends are there, so I'm going to take a weekend trip with this family and that's at Pendleton, or, you know, my bestie's at Ellick and we're going there. And so we see that. Then you're dealing with a slump where, man, my grades did not show the way they needed to at the end of the first quarter. Why try? I'm just going to skip school. Or, ooh, I have a tummy ache. We have the seasonal allergies, all that part. And then you're dealing with the time change and the darkness and lack of motivation. And so it's harder in a virtual setting, right, to reach out and grab them, right? Like, hey, let's do this. And so with the policies that are going to go into place with that clear structure for families and their decision making, you're not going to be able to stay in that program unless you come back to us, this like engagement part. So I fully support all the parts he wants to put in there. Not that he must have it.
My thinking, when I've mentioned that some previous time,
Sure.
we did have some discussion. We were hearing from some parties about, APA really is not set up, or from our standpoint, to be a virtual school. And I think we're past that. I think there was just some misunderstandings about some things. But one thing that's always brought up is, it's pulling the scores down, grades down. Well, I got thinking about it because the bulk is sophomores, juniors, and seniors who mostly want to work. But they don't take, by the time they get that high, they don't really take standardized tests. So wasn't that kind of a fallacy to say that that was pulling test scores down? Now it might pull their personal grades down.
Sure.
But then our society is still a free market economy, and you reap what you sow. So I was questioning some of the reasoning that we were hearing early. I'm assuming, and you haven't met with Ball State yet, but they, I think, always listen to our videos,
Yes,
so
and
they'll be hearing that, and
Yeah.
you'll be meeting with them eventually. I don't think we're sensing any more problems in that area. Hopefully not.
No, and that is, and as you guys can see in the renewal documents, there was a special addendum part
Right, saw
for
that.
him to answer,
Yes.
right? And we've got the data to back it up, right? And you're right, like, they're not gonna drag our test scores down. Now, to be honest, not much is going to drag them down.
Well, good point, but.
iLearn's not a great thing for anybody right now, but, we've been struggling. But we have a lot of amazing things that are happening both in person and online to address that. And our school is more than that standardized test. Yes, the public we've drilled it in since No Child Left Behind especially passed. These scores, this standardized test, that is the measurement of your child's worth and their future success. Well, we know that there are people in this room that are horrible test takers, right? But they are some of the most brilliant people in the world. If we depended on one single snapshot, then we might as well just say, nope, you can't live in society, right? And so I do think that we have made the case for why APA Online is necessary, especially for the population we serve. And that, he's been brilliant in this role, and he's not been trying to force a square peg where it doesn't fit, right? Like, let's get rid of that peg, let's try something different. So, there you go. And it's recorded. You can take that back and say, Jill said nice things.
Thank you.
Yes, and it would be a competitive disadvantage for us at a time when, obviously, like you said, it's not, I don't think, a reflection on us, but we're all aware that the city of Anderson and probably Madison County is not growing. Therefore, there's no reason to think that the long-term trend is not going to be anything but probably down a little bit. And if we do not offer that, except in emergency situations, that is, again, putting us in a competitive disadvantage. And while we always hope that our General Assembly will say, well, we'll give you 100% of the basic foundation funding, as we were talking about earlier before the meeting started, 85% is better than 0% because a lot of those kids may go elsewhere.
Yes.
And I don't know that we can ill afford to lose any serious students, let's say.
Yes. And that's the key word, is the serious students.
Yeah, the ones that really
yes.
want to try. And if there's special needs, I think that anybody that has listened to our board meetings down through the years, I think we go over and above what most do to try to identify special needs. I have heard testimonies that we've picked up some that the other schools did not measure. We're not criticize anybody else. It's hard to measure. And we're willing to help people if they're willing to be helped. So, and I think that the early years I was on the board, there was a lot of discussion about the hated and reviled general diploma would never be allowed. We're college prep all the way. But I believe our special needs kids have a very impressive record of if they finish with us, they graduate.
Yeah, and we've capped that, right, where we do offer that diploma, but we don't have very many that have to go down that route. Of course, there are going to be some, right? Because there are cognitive challenges and other things that are way beyond,
They're really serious,
anything, right?
serious problems.
But because we have the ability to flex with our families and flex with our kids, like within a program like this, we're able to individualize the education. We're able to maybe meet it in a child's needs in a way that a bigger school or area program can't. And that's the thing, right? Not that I need to keep making a case for APA Online, but we talked about this earlier in the meeting with AI and the educational landscape. Things are changing, right? And to all of a sudden say, hey, well, we don't want to be that online school, right? We were ahead of everybody 15 years ago by going one-to-one with computers. And kids don't need to learn digitally. They don't sit them in front of a screen, and obviously we all feel a certain kind of way about them being on a screen, especially now. But we were ahead of the game that way, which then set us up for literally a global pandemic to be able to flex with it. And so I know Ryan is Ivy Tech, right? The colleges all have virtual programs. Today's students, today's professionals, they need online access.
They expect it to be offered.
So I think for the kids that it is great for, I think that this programming and the policies that he's proposed, they're going to make it better for them. And then when we know it's not the right program for a kid, right, we shouldn't just keep allowing that to happen, because our kids can't afford to keep having those learning gaps, and kids in general across the nation can't afford to just disappear into a virtual program that they're not being successful in. So I won't soapbox anymore. I cannot promise that.
I think
Cannot
what
promise
you
that.
have proposed to tighten up where you're allowed legally, I think should satisfy anyone's objections.
Ryan, did you?
Yeah, I just had a question about AI, because
Yeah.
with that just being more prevalent every single day.
Sure.
And you said they get zeros for using it, but is it?
So, there is a system that will flag it.
That's what I was going to ask
Yep,
you.
it
That's-
flags it, it shows keystrokes.
Yeah.
I have had so far one student who argued that no, they wrote it themselves. There is also a timestamp that showed he spent 7 seconds on that.
Okay, well,
It's hard to write 4 paragraphs in 7 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not possible, it just seems unlikely. And then they do get a 0, but I put in the comments that they can email me for an attempt to do it themselves.
Okay.
So,
That was my main question. I was wondering how you were detecting it.
yes,
Yeah,
it does
that would be
flag,
pretty
and I
obvious.
know that that's not 100%
Right.
accurate all the time, but it at least gives me something to say, hey, I'm not sure, this was flagged.
Yeah.
You want to talk about it? I mean, and most of the time they just are like, oh, I'm sorry, and move on.
Yeah.
Is that where that EdgeX thing?
Not the Edge X, but it is part of Edgenuity.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
They keep adding new features to it. It's a
Mhm.
little, it's great.
my little bubble has like 10 new features to go through, so. Any other questions or anything I can answer right now?
And did you say that you wanted us to vote on
So
this for
I'll
you? Is
just
that
be
what you said?
transparent, I don't know what this, I've not ever had a policy proposed to the board before, so I don't know what that's supposed to look like.
So we're not sure either.
Okay, good, so
We
we're all
don't
here together.
Policy schmolicy around here. Yes.
I guess I would just, if there's any feedback, I would be open to that, and then just looking to implement it as soon as we can, really. I've already started with some of the newer enrollees using a lot of this, with a little asterisk of saying, hey, this is not yet approved. So.
Well, and I was just gonna ask, you've got that the high schoolers have to be online no longer than, later than 6 PM. So does that work with their work schedules or whatever? Like,
So, I mean, and that's on them to kind of have to figure out that,
Mhm.
I mean, honestly.
Okay.
If it is a case-by-case situation, we can look at that, but even in that scenario, they probably could log in prior to going to work.
Yeah, well, in their programming, I would say you're probably hard pressed to find a kid that doesn't have a cell phone, right?
True.
Yes.
Especially.
And they
True.
can access, I do have kids that have used their phone for it. It's very difficult to read because it's super tiny, but it
Yeah.
is possible.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
and with the engagement that he does, not all of it is just on the digital program,
Mhm.
where he has them complete surveys and those type of things for attendance and other engagement. But that's part of, and if you're an online student, even at like the university level, right? There are deadlines there. You've got to work on the time management. That is a very important executive functioning skill that a lot of our ADHD people around here still struggle with, right? Self included. But if they want to be committed to that program and they want to be doing it, we have the legal obligation that they're supposed to be attending school every day. And we are supposed to be tracking that. And as part of our audit process as a school, like they do pull our attendance records. They pick 60 kids a year, and we have to provide attendance records. We have to apply enrollment records, all of those things. And so if we would not have a requirement like that, we're also setting ourselves up for failure and a huge liability risk. So.
Makes sense, makes sense.
So, and you know what I would say, I know, I don't know how many people had a chance to read that online, but I would highly recommend that, you know, we go ahead and accept this as our handbook and policy, but also understand that if the board wants to take some time and then just put it as an agenda item for next month, just to get the approval.
Would it make sense, since Ball State will be still with us for a little while longer, let's say table that to the next board meeting just in case there's any discussions further on the issue? I don't know. I don't think there will be, but
I don't see, in a case like this, they can make their suggestions or recommendation, but this is our policy.
our policy,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's
so-
not charter policy, it's
Well-
that, and they already have access to
Mhm.
this document as part of our renewal, so they've had chances to look
To
through
look
and
at,
review.
yeah.
Now, they are bringing on Melissa Brown, who is the former school leader of Indiana Connections Academy, to help do the, how do you evaluate an online program if you're not an online person? And so
Yeah.
she'll be able to provide some meaningful feedback to Zach on, you know, programmatic ideas and all that, but it doesn't necessarily dictate any of the changes unless he's like, oh, hey, that's a great thing. I would love that, because again, this has to be designed for our families, our population, and that.
Well, I
So,
am
and I think it's-
prepared,
I support it either way.
Mr. Chairman, I am prepared to offer a motion. If the consensus is to proceed with that, I will make a motion that we accept the virtual policy as submitted to us this evening.
Thank you, Dave, for that motion. Do we have a second on that?
I'll
will-
second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this?
It's brief language, and I guess it gets it accomplished, so.
If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Motion carries and that's adopted. Thank you, Captain Morrison, and thank you, Jill, also for that presentation stuff this evening. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys.
And just a second comments. Thank you, sir. Great job.
All right, thank you. Any other further discussion this evening? If not, all right, can I get a motion to adjourn our board meeting this evening?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, racing to do.
Yes.
I'll second.
Once.
All
Got
right, we
two
have a motion,
motions in 2
Any further
seconds.
discussion?
Second.
Okay. If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion